Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning to our Zoom people that are over here. Can you hear us? Kind of. You can kind of hear us. Excellent. I'm going to take that as a yes. Welcome. Can we just give, first of all, Logan a fantastic round of applause. We all need that in the morning, especially on a Monday after half term. So, thank you ever so much for being here today for this really special event, which is presented by Amplify, who are our Youth Voice programme. It's been a various sort of young people that have joined us over the last 4 years. It's been a really, really exciting journey for Lancashire Music Hub. We're here today to discuss, to provoke, to come up with ideas, and most of all, to come up with some actions that we can make happen in Lancashire in the short term as well, the next 12 months, the next 18 months. And Helen from Blaze is going to introduce the talking bit in a minute. Just to give you a bit of a background on the Amplify project, we started 4 years ago with a group of 7 young people, all from different musical backgrounds, that came together to think about their experiences of music education, some of which had been absolutely fantastic and then engaged school, out of school, through the music service, and others that had been kind of a little bit more self-led. They'd found their own way, they were making music at home. They didn't feel particularly well served by the music education system such as it is. And it was really interesting getting their thoughts together. They come up with a list of, we believe music education should be for everybody. We believe that the government should value creative subjects alongside maths and English and science. We believe that no matter what barriers there are, you should have the access to music education and musical opportunities. We believe there shouldn't be a difference between genres. All genres should be accessible within music education. So some fantastic statements from them. They presented that at a national conference at Music Mark in 2018, I think that was. It feels like a long time ago now. It was a long time ago. And then they started thinking about, what do other people think? How do we, this is what we think. So they set up a survey, and that survey they managed to get out to over 400 young people across Lancashire, visiting festivals, on Facebook, online. So they got that 400 responses from other young people across Lancashire. They found out lots of exciting things, but they pinned it down to 4 key areas that they wanted to take forward and that they wanted to discuss. We were going to go on a roadshow, we were going to do a fantastic event, and then of course everything got shut down in March 2020. So we reformatted the project, we reshaped the project, and what we came up with was offering a commission to 4 young people to produce a piece of online content. Each of those 4 young people was given one of these key areas that we're going to be talking about today. So the averageness of music education. It was like some people had a great time, some people really didn't have a good time, but mostly it was a bit. The second one being the gap between what there is available and what there maybe should be available. And the interesting thing was teachers that we've spoken to as part of the project also identified those areas as there might be more opportunities. Music technology, songwriting, DJ, hip-hop, rap, were all identified as areas where there could be more opportunities. The third one, which has of course become much more relevant over the last 18 months, was the, they called it IRL versus URL, so in real life versus online, and the fact that, anyway, they'll undermine what they're going to say, but the difference between those and how they complement each other and how they can work together as well. And finally, about career paths, and the fact that nearly 90%, 99% of people have an interest in music, and especially it was a huge part of young people's lives according to our survey, but only a tiny percentage wanted to take it any further as a potential career path. So that was really interesting to us. Why is that? What's the information about career paths? So those are the 4 areas that they decided that they wanted to investigate further. So 4 pieces of content have been created. I have to say 3 pieces of content have been created. One young person couldn't complete the project with us, unfortunately. But we've got 3 fantastic pieces of content. And for the 4th area, which is IRL, URL, we've got the More Media Collective, who are based up at More Music, who have taken that on and are going to do a bit of a presentation. I've just realised I haven't introduced myself. I am Cath Sewell. I'm from the Music Service. We're the lead organisation for Lancashire Music Hub. And it's been an absolute delight to run this project over the last 4 years with More Music and Rachel from More Music, who you'll meet in a minute. And also Helen, who I'm going to pass over to now, who's actually really quite new still at Blaze Arts. We work with Matt Wild, who's the founding director, and the brilliant Hannah, who's now over in Berlin pursuing a career as an artist. So Helen's been absolutely brilliant to be able to pick this up in a few weeks, literally. So I'm going to hand over to Helen, who's going to talk a little bit about the process of today.
Hey everyone. So yeah, what we're going to do is make the most of this great opportunity of having such a range of people in the same room, and the fact we've got people of different ages, different backgrounds. So the format is, we've got, as we said, these 4 core themes, and each one's going to be introduced with the digital content and also a few people sort of speaking and reacting to that. But then we're going to give you each the chance to discuss on your tables your thoughts on it. And over there, on that really tiny bit of paper, we've got 4 key themes for the day, just to remind you. So this is all about imagining what music education in Lancashire could look like in the future. And this is, think big, be ambitious, what could it be? Listening to each other, so like I said, that's really important. No matter what your background is or your experience here today, we're all on the same page. And you're valuing everyone's unique perspectives. Discussing how can change be achieved, so how can we make that vision a reality, and importantly, really trying to pin down some specific actions. So what can you do, or what can we do together? What could happen in the next 12 months, 6 months or longer?
But I'm delighted to introduce our first piece of content, which is by Caitlin Lee, who has been looking at the phrase that they came up with, the averageness of music education. So we're going to ask Caitlin to stand up and give us a bit of an intro. I'm going to give you the microphone now.
So, hi, I'm Caitlin. As Cath said, I looked into the averageness of music. I've got to talk to lots of different music educators and listen to their views on what can be quite a controversial statement. But we put it all into a podcast, and I think it's really interesting to see how different people view the music education, and a lot of it relates to how much people want to invest in music and the arts, and yeah.
Most of the teachers I come across do really well with music. The room there is for music in the year seems pretty tiny, so I feel like they're doing their best.
What's kind of apparent is that there needs to be a lot more funding for music. There needs to be a lot more, a lot more going on. I think music needs to be in education and everywhere. It needs to become a much more a daily thing that everybody takes part in.
Great, thanks Caitlin. I'm now going to invite Ali, who's joined us on Zoom, Dr. Ali Daubney, who's a musician, educator, researcher, who's going to give us a bit of a provocation around this area. So if I can ask you to unmute, Ali, and I'm going to put you on speaker view.
Sure. Good morning, everybody, from, actually today's sunny Dorset. You'll see the sunshine. You'll see a picture of Bolton in the background because I'm married into a Lancastrian family. So thanks for having me today. I've been asked to just give you a quick provocation, I suppose, around the word averageness. And I've been thinking about this quite a lot. So I suppose that the angle I'm going off at is that averageness implies that it's a mathematical term, and then there are some above average, and there are some below average, and there are some that we might say are average, which kind of makes me giggle every time I hear politicians talking about wanting more children and young people achieving above average, because that implies that they don't understand what average actually means. Because if we have average as a mathematical thing, then we have to have this idea of some always falling below, which worries me immensely. And the whole thing around measuring, if you like, I think is detrimental across lots of things in society, but particularly around education, and in particular in my interest around how young people feel about themselves musically and how they feel that they achieve musically. So with this fundamental misunderstanding, I suppose I just wanted to share my screen with you if I'm able to, which it looks like I am. Right, so the idea of averages is you either sit on this straight line, or this straight line. Choose yourself. Okay, so we're trying to get away from that, and I think the work that you have been doing up there is absolutely brilliant in that you've been really trying to hone into what it means to be a young person experiencing music, wherever that may be. I think that there are some things that we need to bear in mind, and there are some challenges that we need to think about and push against. And the first one is that equality, okay, means that the place that everybody has access to a music education is in school, and it's supposed to be that from the age of 5 to 14, young people get to experience music education. And Painter, rightly or wrongly, talks about music education starting in the classroom. I think he's wrong about that, because children and young people, or young children come to school absolutely filled with music from their own lives. But I do agree with the ambition of that we have to recognise the importance of music in school. So we have to make sure music in school is good and fit for purpose. And the direction in which that is pushing at the moment is much more for kind of homogenisation. And there's a new national plan for music education out, which doesn't recognise the contribution of young people, their voice, their music. It's really problematic to me that that's the situation. However, the best thing about that is that it's non-statutory. Teachers don't have to teach it. And therefore, there's plenty of scope there for teachers in school to be able to create a music education that's exciting, inspiring, it's relevant and it's progressive, that pushes children and young people in a direction that they want it to go. So for me, we have to try and move away from this idea of averageness, actually, and homogenisation. And it was interesting this morning hearing about the themes that you picked up on, because the other one that I wanted to pick up in my very short provocation is around the routes that we take through music. And my computer's decided to completely lose that at the moment, but there is a really good diagram that actually flashed up on your screen right at the beginning, which is a skeleton for creating progression environments in music, which is the work that comes from Ben Sandbrook and his brilliant roundtable work from a few years ago, which talks about all of the different and exciting ways that children find their way through music and young people find their way into music, whether that's as a career, whether that's as somebody who goes to gigs, does something with their mates, some kind of lifelong engagement in music, whatever that is going to be. So if we're going to get away from the averageness in music, I think the themes that you've chosen are absolutely bang on. And I think what I really want to think about is how do we get away from people feeling unmusical, which is a big part of the work that I've been thinking about recently, the research I've been doing. About feeling, how do you get them to feel musical? Because if you can't get them to feel musical, even if they're what somebody might call achieving, then it's not really going to help them to kind of get into a lifelong or even a now, focusing now on, excuse me, feeling and being musical. So I suppose one of my provocations is everything that we do in education helping children and young people and adults to feel musical. And so I suppose I wanted to leave you really with John Finney's quote, which I absolutely try to live by, which is basically that music in the bones is what counts. And I think if we can try and work towards an education and a society that actually values and respects where people want to come from and where they want to go to and provides the scaffolding for them to be able to do that in their education, and we can stop talking about things like averageness and this mathematical idea that some people are and some people aren't. Because I could name to you, and I'm sure you could yourselves, the most amazing young people who are brilliant at making and creating music in their own ways. But if you sat them down with a test paper and asked them to identify 2 crotchets and to tell you when Bach lived, frankly, they would have no idea, which on some kind of scale, even though they're fantastic young musicians, would make them, in the eyes of some, under average. So That's my provocation for this morning. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Ali. Thank you. I'm going to ask people to wrap up there because we've got our next piece of content to introduce to you. So, unfortunately, our second content creator, Aaron, he is here today. He's not feeling very well, so he's taking a bit of time. He might be with us later on, or if you want to chat to him at the break. But he's been working with Ewan, who's going to give you a little bit more insight into his piece of content, and then we'll show you that.
Hello everybody, I'm Ewan. I was Aaron's mentor over the last few months, and Aaron's done an absolutely fantastic job looking at what there is and what there should be in music education. He came to me with a lot of ideas basically about what his experience was, his lived experience of music education, as I know has certainly been coming from the conversations today, has very much been experienced differently by every single person, but ultimately the goal for him was all about him as a performer, as a singer-songwriter, and also very politically charged as well. He's very much a young person who's come through the last 10 years of school, really experiencing the harsh reality of the cuts to music education, and very much the piecemeal approach that's in very many different high schools. Every high school is different, every young person's experience is different based on where they are in Lancashire, and also he has really much sort of felt that. So his content, which we're going to watch very, very shortly, is a song and also some visuals. It's called Change Your Tune. And here we go.
Some crazy dreams. They want to write some songs and get them mixed and get them streamed. They've had to teach themselves a lot, like how to play and how to sing. It's clear the natural talent, but I'll tell you here's the thing. You see, there's lots of things in music that you can't learn in class, cause it's all underfunded, cause it's not English and maths. The teachers teach about Beethoven and the stuff that's on exams, but nothing real like writing songs or how to start a band. They want to be in a #1 band. I sell our stadium shows across the land, with clouds in the palms above their hands. But keep the going quiet, cause the kids have exams. Well, lad's a music junkie, but his mates say it's not cool, cause they're more into Stormzy, but he says Oasis rule. He listens to the songs and he picks up on the words. He tweaks them, then he nicks and puts some chords in with a third. His teacher loves the stuff, says they wish they could reduce the score, but they're held by bylaw funding because chemistry needs more. They say the choir has to do, they can't afford anything new, but the story's all of instruments from 1852. They ask us why the subject is here, so what? We're seen as unviable by the politicians in charge. You're letting down a generation of the arts. Do you hear the people sing? Give us all our head start.
say that Aaron handled every single one of these things on that video and he pieced it all together completely, and absolutely phenomenal experience working for him, and Aaron's mum is here with us today. So thank you very much to Aaron. He's done an absolute cracking job.
Yeah, thank you. I think we should have also said that Aaron's topic was the gap between what there is and what there maybe should be, so he really ran with that. Now I'm going to invite Ash Murphy from More Music and also Tony Rigg to give us some very short provocations. If that's okay, Tony, I know you were supposed to be here in person. Do you want to go first, Tony, and I'll put you on speaker view? Just a short 1 minute provocation in response to that subject, just to get us talking and get us into our debate. So I'm going to hand over to Tony.
Sure. Firstly, that was an excellent piece of media, and I think I'm going to sort of improvise a little bit based around that. One of the key things that came across is this idea. There was sort of obviously that the music education isn't being supported particularly well by government, and certainly as is evident from today, there's a group of people who are passionate about doing something brilliant in the area of music education. So one thought is that without these people, the situation would be significantly worse. Another theme that came across, now my personal perspective is whilst I am a creative and a music maker, the majority of my work is about converting those skills into careers and industry, and in particular, there was the notion, and I have read many conversations with young people who have sort of come through the school offerings for music education, and I regularly hear that there's a separation between there's traditional the education is based a lot about traditional forms of music, but actually the things that are most interesting are the contemporary and technology orientated music opportunities. And certainly since the democratization of the technologies to create music and to also be able to promote music, to design brands, to create materials that can be promoted, that engagement with the new technologies, music making is in the hands of more people really than it ever has been before, and the thought leans towards that. We've had obviously coronavirus, and it's decimated, dramatically impacted on the music industry. We're in a position where we need to rebuild it, and we need to seed enthusiasm at early stages, and also flag up the prospects of DIY for musicians, because that in itself is quite an exciting prospect for young people.
Thanks, Tony. That's great. I'm going to hand over to Ash.
Thank you.
Yeah, very similar, really. As I've been delivering what would kind of control contemporary music in education for over 10 years now, and it's definitely seeing a shift in what even right through from primary is the awareness of popular culture now through film, through young films, and through kind of everything from its contemporary music is just in all of our world, and younger ages are just more aware of what they like and their identity. So kind of the challenge of delivering that is just becomes more and more interesting. So I'm beginning to shift my focus now on not only just kind of training up people that can deliver these in a really specific way, but also how can we, arm teachers with amazing stuff like, the resources that we can use through Charanga and things, of how teachers can feel like they're able and confident to be able to deliver what we call often contemporary music, and also that idea what Tony just echoing that about just allowing that space for home progression and just exploring your own musical and how we can help resource that and how we can let people find that themselves as well. That's a really exciting place to be in.
Thanks, Ash. That's great. I think a really good start to our discussion. So thinking about the subject, what there is, what there should be, and maybe inspired by that, a little bit about the technology that's now available. How can we harness that? How can we use that? And also what Ash just said about how can we make sure that people delivering music education have got the skills to pass that on, but what can we also learn from young people who, digital natives, people that have grown up with this, have just been using GarageBand since they were 5. So what can we get back from that as well? So I'll just throw that in there before you start your discussions.
So these guys at the front are from our More Media Collective, and also Soundwaves, Kane on the end, who's come through our Youth Reaching Out network. And they've taken on the challenge of this topic, which was looking at IRL versus URL from the Amplify survey, which, so this is pre-pandemic, which is a consideration. The most popular way that young people got involved with music was in school, but then the second most popular way was online. So this is like making music at home, on your laptop, bedroom producers, which we've reframed home producers. And so these guys have spent the half term coming up with 4 provocations based around this subject that they're going to share with you and some of their experiences now about making music online and at home, and how this is valued within schools and access. And so I'm going to hand you over to Joe.
Hello, thank you all for coming to listen to us. My name is Joe. We've got Jack, Logan and Kane over here. And this is sort of a topic that it's a bit weird, because a lot of working musicians will do a certain amount of their own producing and working on their own music, but might not necessarily call them a producer, and it's a bit of an undervalued skill, so it's really good to talk about. So our first provocation is the music young people make at home less valued than the music that they make in school? So I'm going to talk to Logan about this. So could you please tell us a little bit about what music you work on at school, what you work on at home, and how might that be a bit different from each other?
Well, the music that I work on in school's mainly based towards band work and rock, and we don't really get much choice into what we do. And it's different from what I do at home, which is more DJing and drum bass, house type stuff. And because we're told what we have to do, and we have to do it as a band, it doesn't give us a chance to work solo, work on stuff that we know how to do, and so we can get better at stuff, what we already know how to do.
Yeah, so you're saying that, so when you're working on your own music at home, you get to choose, like for example, the genre, whereas when you're in school, you don't necessarily get to be in charge of all the different aspects of what you're doing.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, as like Joe said, when I'm at home I get to choose genre, what I want to do, whereas in school we're told what to do, and we don't get much choice.
Well, thank you very much for that, Logan. So our second provocation is how can schools better engage with and support home producers? So I'm going to skip over Kane for this one. So for the term home producers, we're classing that as any young person in the scenario that works on their own music at home, doesn't need to be in the bedroom, could be any room. So how do you think schools can better support people who work on their own music at home?
Yeah, so I think it sort of comes down to like the attitude some schools have towards music education, because the school I come from is it's quite a rural area, and they really don't care that much about music, and we don't have any well taught programs, and it's obviously that attitude sort of overarches onto people who do music at home, because if schools are taken seriously and you're going home, they want to do it and they don't have the access to it, or they know what direction to go in. And if they haven't got attitude in school, they're not going to have attitude for the people who do it as a hobby or at home. And if they don't, because it's like, and if you don't have that access to it, it's hard you know, because it can put people off, and it's a bit hard to, you know, to get them to keep going, because if they're not supporting them, who is, you know. So.
It's worth pointing out as well is that for a lot of low-income young people, making music, they could only have access to that at school if they don't have any facilities at home, if they've got no money for instruments, stuff like that. So schools offering all these different services can only be a good thing, especially in those cases where people can't necessarily afford to do it themselves. So our third provocation, which I'm going to take, is how does digital poverty impact on the ability to make music at home? So digital poverty is this thing where we talk about having no access to either technology or Wi-Fi at home. Lockdown did a really good job at highlighting how many people in the UK do not have access to these, what some might consider basic facilities at home. There was a really big call out for Wi-Fi and computers and laptops and getting all these students the facilities they needed to engage with school. If schools and music centre provided free access to this stuff, this could only have a profound effect on engagement in vulnerable young people. In a world where we're relying more and more on technology, this should be reflected in the music curriculum as well, because the music industry has changed, not even just in the past 2 years, but in the past 10, 15 years, and we should update our curriculum, I think, to reflect that. And then we've got one more provocation, which is anything lost by making music online? And Jack has actually been doing a lot of different sessions during lockdown, so I'm going to pass this one to him.
Yeah, well, I know we wanted to talk about this pre-pandemic, but I think in terms of representing music and the diversity of it and how people can interact and make music, I think a lot of people find value in collaboration in general, and they will find that through other means if they're not getting it in schools. So online, you know, they find these resources to learn how to do production and things like that, and becomes a lot more accessible, especially when it comes to other genres. And if they find that their outlet to collaborate comes from online, I don't think anything is really lost through that. I mean, you can say that, you know, playing in person has been sort of devalued and kind of lost a lot by the pandemic, but I think a lot of the ways we've worked around it have made it flourish as well. So I think, I mean, personally, I think nothing is lost with online interaction, and yeah, it's interesting to see the difference and the way that young people have adapted to creating. So yeah.
And especially since the internet has become a lot more popular, this is a very old mindset that online interactions and online friendships are somehow less real than friendships you have with people that you know in your local areas. And this does go long before lockdown. And I think it's just bearing in mind that having online music sessions is accessible in a way that we haven't been able to do before. Lots of different people can't attend in-person sessions for a multitude of different reasons. And if they have digital access, that does remove all of those barriers. And so they can engage with a music making session where they couldn't have previously. So while you're having your talk about IRL versus URL, I think the point to bear in mind is that music is evolving, education is evolving, and we need to support all areas of the music industry that we can, so that all of these young musicians have the skills they need to eventually get a job in the music industry, which I think is what music education should be about. So thank you very much for listening to us.
Thank you guys so much, really, really thought-provoking. So yeah, take that into your discussion.
Move on to our final topic, which is career paths in music. And I was mentoring Olivia, who's made a podcast for this, and she's moved on to university in the time that's passed, so she can't be with us today. But I'm going to let Olivia kind of introduce the topic, which stemmed from the fact that only, I think, 8% of the people that completed our survey would consider or were considering at the time taking music as a serious career path. And obviously there are many careers in the music industry that we could explore. So we've got 3 people that are going to talk about this, but I'll let Olivia just do a little intro.
With the 4 podcast lines, I'm going to cover a different topic on each one, and this one's focusing on broadening the knowledge of career paths and the progression routes and how to get there. The other two are challenging the stereotypical career paths and then the importance of music education in young people. But for the first one, I wanted to start on how to actually get there and what young people can do to help them understand what's available, because I found, especially for me, I wasn't sure if I'm going to do music at uni this year, but not knowing if it was the right thing to do, whether if I don't want to be a performer, what else can I do? And that's something that really helped me in inspiration with this. So
I'm going to pass you to Harriet, who's going to talk about her career pathway into sound engineering first.
Hi, I'm a sound engineer, and I started off. I'm going to start from high school, so I was looking to go to a performing arts school, Central, and they had a great music department, and I was lucky that in year 9, which was when I was getting interested in what career I was going to go into, they got a recording studio, and that's where my passion started, because that's where you'd find me. I'd be hiding in the recording studio, messing around with technology. So from that, I had a very enthusiastic music teacher who I got pushed into Lancaster and Morecambe College. I did a performance course because technology courses didn't exist when I was growing up through the education. They were very rare. And I was very lucky to have a guitar teacher who was friends with a local venue manager. And so I shadowed, and I went straight from college to shadowing at the local venue. So I managed to get that experience straight away with a sound engineer and shadowed him, and then that's how it all happened, and that's how I ended up in the music industry. Knew that that's what I wanted to do, and had a college tutor who found me a course that was in Manchester, in the SSR, School of Sound Recording. I managed to get in because it was very hard to get into that place. Got through there, and now that's what I do. I'm a sound engineer, so that's the path that I took. But it was the venue. Working in the venue is the best way as an engineer, because in the education there's just not the teaching there. It's probably because music, there's so many things that you can do.
Thank you, Harriet. Are we going to go to Dave and then Jan? Is that right? Okay, so Dave's going to chat, and then Jan is going to share a provocation with us.
Hi, I also went to SSR, but many years earlier, no doubt, 1985, I think. My feeling about career paths is quite interesting, really, because I think if you want to be a performer and be the rock star, I think there's lots of career paths that way and lots of university courses. And I think if you want to be an engineer, I think there's lots of things. But I think there's not enough options to let students know about all the other careers. Things like, for instance, there's an absolutely massive skill shortage at the moment for piano tuners. There's a skill shortage for string technicians and electronic engineers and things like that. So I see that everybody's like wanting to be the pop star, so to speak, and there's loads of stuff for that. And I work with Tony a little bit at UCLan as a leader in residence, and I think what Tony's doing with his MA students is fascinating. I've been helping them to sort of try and home in on their business ideas, and very few of those actually are going, I want to be a performer. So although performing is massively important, it's only a fraction of the size of the industry from the point of a careers. And I think I don't know if anybody saw UK Music last week before last, put out the figures that we've lost 69,000 jobs in the music industry over the last 12 months. We've gone down from a workforce of 197,000 down to 128,000, which is absolutely, terrible. But really, I think if you're a parent of a child with all the negative things that's been in the news about, I don't know what that little girl who was a dancer, let little Matilda become a cyber security I think it's all sending the wrong message. And so my feeling is there's lots of other career paths other than just being a performer or an engineer. There's more people now, there's more job vacancies now in broadcast sound. I was lucky enough to go to Strictly Come Dancing a week last Saturday. Well, actually, I'm not into the programme, so maybe unluckily. But seeing all the sound people and how they were operating. But yeah, you know, a lot of the courses are about that, you know, recording studio. Well, we all know that the recording studio engineers have slightly changed since I was young. You know, there isn't recording studios everywhere. In fact, Rachel just said, I remember when I used to go and sort of record the band in the studio, but now these guys are sort of recording themselves at home. So say things are changing and the careers are different to what they are 30 years ago, but I think a lot of the music careers, when people think of it, it's either being a performer or a recording engineer, but there's loads of other options.
Thanks, Sue. I'm going to hand it over to Jan.
Yeah, good afternoon. I'm just going to sit here because I don't want to hear my voice from the speaker. That's all right. So I was asked to put together a provocation, so I prepared two. If that's all right. And I feel like a lot of interesting stuff has been already mentioned here throughout the day, and I feel like perhaps there's going to be a little bit of repetition in what I'm going to say, but hopefully I'll try to bring it somehow together, if that's all right. A very small number of respondents viewed music as a potential career path or future profession. Can I just say that music, it is a viable career path. And I'll give you two figures, okay? 2018, so pre-pandemic, £5.2 billion, that's the level of contribution of music industry to the economy. We've had this dramatic drop of people employed in the wider music industry, you know, from 191 to 120,000 people. But still, there's lots of people employed and finding employment in the music industries. So if you don't know that you can do music for a living, and if you don't think that it's possible, then it's not your fault. Okay, we already know that, you know, music is not promoted very often as a viable career path. Okay, it is tough, it is competitive, but it is possible. However, because it's a creative art and it is a creative industry, there is no formula. Okay, there is no formula in how you find job in that and how you make things work. And so people need to be creative. And we know that young people have a lot of passion for making music, but unfortunately, they also think that this is what sets them apart from others. But unfortunately, that's not enough, and that's not true. Okay, you can earn money from music, but you need to be more than passionate. You need to know how to make money in music. And one of the challenges is that people who make money from music, they don't really very often talk about their success stories. My other point is that music is not a math, okay, where 1 + 1 is equal to 2. So there is no formula to how to be successful. And if anybody tells you, I know how to do that and I'm going to sell you the dream, then they're probably lying. What works for one person may not necessarily work for another. So in order to be successful and succeed, you just need to be different. And I think it all starts in schools and nurseries, because these are the places where young people get the first proper experience of learning music, learning to play a music instrument, and learning about music. But we also know that schools are stretched with a budget, so that they don't have access necessarily to the latest technologies and the latest equipment. And that means that young people are looking for opportunities outside of schools, and we've already talked about the DIY musicians or the bedroom musicians. But the school, beyond the opportunity of making music at home, the school is just really super important place to learn about music. But unfortunately, the distance between the knowledge that you get in the schools about the music industry and the reality of the music industry and how things work, the distance is really, really long. And we need to shorten the distance. And our findings at Youth Music suggest that there is no effective link between the music education and the music industries. So my question, the first question for the group here is, are the people who teach music in schools, are they the right people to teach music? And if we want to change things, do we have the right people here in this room? Am I the right person to talk about career paths in music education if I don't have any career in music? Who are we missing from the conversation here? Unfortunately, it still matters who you are, where you are, and what is your background, what are your barriers. Women are less likely to make money, from music making than men. Women are less likely to get access to support and mentoring, in their career, to mentoring mentoring to make it, to them in the music industry. And if you're disabled, then your chances are even lower. When I say it depends on where you live, if you live in London, Birmingham, Liverpool, Manchester, and in other big cities, it's more likely that you're successful in the future. It also depends on your income background. So people from the lower economic backgrounds are less likely to earn in music. They have fewer networking opportunities, are less likely to have help and be mentored by people in the music industry. It also depends on your education. If you have a degree, you're more likely to succeed than if you have just the GCSE. And what I think this suggests, that it requires a more systemic change. We're talking about the policymakers, we're talking about the investments in the regional and local economies. We're talking about the changes in the music industries and in the music education too. My second provocation is then, and the question for the group, what do we do as individuals and as organizations to remove those barriers for young people? And my final bit is, let's be clear and let's be real. Not everyone is going to make it. In our blueprint for the future report, we found that 44% of the respondents, of the young people, wanted to be artists or musicians. The second most popular ambition was music PR and marketing, and that was 22% of respondents. 40% music artists, musicians, and then the second was 20%. The reality is, as I said, not everybody is going to make it, but you stand a really good chance, and young people stand a really good chance if they take it as a business opportunity, if they're entrepreneurial, okay? It may not be the musician part that gives you the money. With the creative careers, they come in all shapes and sizes. performing is just one of them. But not all young people know that. It's ideally you would have multiple income streams, like many businesses have. So my final kind of message is just think about the plan B. What if you can't make it through music? What is your other option? Thank you.
Thanks, Dan, and really great to have youth music here and a national perspective on it. They're a very important organisation, I would say, along with others, including Music Mark, who we work with very closely at the Music Hub, who are really bringing this debate to a national level and making sure that our voices are heard. So it's great to have you here, and thank you to all our speakers today as well.
It was important to amplify to the young people that were involved in designing this day and this project that we had live music. And one of the challenges has been obviously COVID and the weather and things, and we were going to have 4 young performers for you today, but we have got 2. And after Logan's fantastic DJ set to start the day, I'm absolutely delighted to introduce Harriet Mason, who has just finished university, is thrown into the real world, so he's going to, well, I'll let him take it from here really. Can I ask you to use the mic, Harry? Yes. Then our Zoom people could hear you.
So I've just, as Cath mentioned, just graduated university, so I've been through music education formally fairly recently. And what I've found through doing it is that musicians tend to be quite informal people. So when doing formal music education in terms of exams, it's not really everyone's cup of tea, and it discourages quite a lot of people from continuing. What I found since going to university and the opportunities that I was given there is to do more things with your friends. Music at university is very much society-based, which is all organised by under 21s, essentially. So we're all trying to work it out at the same time as each other, and that's what's made it really, really entertaining and fun. So a lot of the discussions that we were having over on our table was how to link the more informal, fun part of music education with the formal, because obviously exams are necessary with how our curriculum is set up, so how to link the two. We don't have an answer, but it was something at least interesting to talk about and think about. So as Cath said, it's going to be some live music, so which one first? Beatboxing or guitar? Beatboxing. Cool. Alright, I'll head over here.
Beatboxing is really, really simple at its base form. It starts off with essentially 3 sounds, boots and cats. It really is that easy. That's all it is. And when you put it all together, it sounds a little bit. But beatboxing in the last 5 or 6 years has got a little bit more interesting than that. And people have started adding weirder sounds into their beatboxing routines. And competitions to who can have basically the strangest sound have cropped up all over the world. And it's made it more musical than just drum beats. So this is a beatbox routine.
sum up some of today, so good luck. Hello, it's impossible. It's not. I'm just going to read a few of the highlights out, and whilst I do that, on your tables, could you think, please, of three actions that you would like to take forward from today's discussions. You've got as long as it takes for me to read out these statements, and then we'll go around the tables, and everyone can share three actions. There may be common themes, like if it's on our tables, common themes that came out across all the discussions that you might want to share with everyone. But just some of the highlights I've read is that we need to develop better links between schools, FE, HE and the industry, so maybe bringing experts or people that are working within the industry into schools to act as role models and inspire the young people that we work with. We need teachers that are skilled musicians but also inspirational and skilled teachers who can deliver music education in schools. We need to make music technology an essential part of the curriculum, and that there are training needs associated with this for teachers. We need to raise awareness of portfolio careers in the industry and say that it's okay to be creative and work in a pub as well, or a cafe. We need more funding. And they are just a few of the things I pulled out from the flip chart paper. Okay, I'm going to start with Catherine's table. You don't need to write anything. Maybe I'll give you a minute. Okay, I'll give everyone a minute to think of three actions, please. I'll set my timer. Okay, your minute's up. I found my favourite. It's how do you find out how to be a piano tuner? It's very good. Okay, we're going to go to Zoom first.
Ali's wrote loads of stuff. Maybe I'll let Ali talk about her ones, but I would just put there about just help create clear pathways and progression routes through schools and just, FE and HE to music industry careers. So just try and create clear pathways for young people to be able to go along to get to those places. Ali, do you want to go through your...
Yeah, I put the things, trying to really sum up the things we've been talking about. We talked about the need to have respect for all people, all cultures, all communities, all genres, traditions and aspirations. And everyone means everybody, and that includes all the young people, the educators, the practitioners, the teachers, the communities, and the organisations and all walks of life. Because to us, I think we were really saying that hierarchy is not required and it's unhelpful. Focusing, as you said there, on the pillars of access and genuine inclusion and what that means. Nurturing pathways for wherever you want to take it. So that means opening doors and knowing that information is available and, having that flexibility of kind of being able to push people in particular directions, helping them see beyond the brow of the hill to see what's even possible for the future possible self. And there's a job in there for workforce development, and that includes people entering the workforce too. Number 4, I put down recognition of what we all bring. Communication and collaboration in events like today are absolutely fantastic for that, because the three of us who are talking here on Zoom sit in very different kind of angles of music and music education, and it's just been really, really healthy to sit and listen to that and discuss that. Much of what we're talking about is already there. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. It's more, as Darren was talking about earlier, about galvanising that and kind of bringing that together and packaging it up into ways that people can find accessibly. The 5th thing I put is polarisation can be unhelpful. Real life is thankfully much more nuanced than this is good, this is bad. We want this kind of music, or we want that kind of music. It's there for everybody, and the ways that we go about that through different types of education and learning also can be really nuanced. And the final thing is I put, it's time to galvanise your enthusiasm and everybody's enthusiasm. It's just been a brilliant event today, to focus on what we do and what we can do in a kind of glass half full way, because to me it's always really unhelpful to say these are all the problems and these are all the things that can't happen. And it's just been really great to hear you say, well, let us celebrate and let us grow from the things that we can do. And I think in life, it's always better to take a solution to somebody than a problem. You might want to point out the problems, and I think that's really helpful to do something small and well. And then Darren's put up something here. Do you want to pick that up, Darren? Because I'm still half reading it.
All right, so it's just what you were saying before I thought was really good, which is that the best experiences that children have with music in school is when there is a supportive culture of music making and creativity throughout the school. It's not purely just driven by the music education staff or the arts staff. It's just across the entire school is accepted that this is an important part of school life, and is valued. So I think that, I think that's very important.
Yeah, we were talking about, I was saying I've got a video on my laptop of Rizzle Kicks, age 14, growing up in one of our local schools and doing a brilliant project that we used as a national curriculum thing, and how, music went through the cultural ether of that school, and it wasn't just owned by one person, it was something that was, owned by everybody. So yeah, thanks for that, Darren.
Great. Tony, have you got anything to add on?
Well, what Ali said and what Darren said, but I think making clear to young people that there are, despite the sort of negative pictures that may have been painted in recent times, obviously music is something to be enjoyed, but it is also a very viable career, and our creative industries are second to none in the world. So to actually make young people aware of the very real career prospects may also interest, not just from, as David was saying, not just from a creative music making point of view, but actually in the wider industry, there's many, many opportunities, and we should be flagging these up.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you ever so much for joining us as well. I hope you felt part of the day. It's been great having you here. We've got to hear from our tables, so I'm going to pass back over to Rachel.
I've got some from Catherine. Does someone want to read them out? Do you want me to read them? Do you want them out? Harry's going to read them.
A database that students can access and perhaps say the kind of things that they enjoy doing in the music, whether that's performing or producing or setting up events and things like that. And working out a way of getting all of these opportunities in a easy to understand format. We wanted to also develop links between schools and universities as youths communicating with other young people is we found a more engaging way of getting these ideas across, and young 20-year-olds and late teenagers communicating with early teenagers, there's more of a link there, so it's easier to understand each other. And a unification of all the areas we've discussed today, because there's so much overlap between all of the things that we've been talking about. There's some way of unifying all of them.
Cheers. Okay, we'll go to this table.
3 very quick ones. One was CPD development for teachers and teacher training and being, that creative. The other one was, I'll pass it over.
We talked a lot about the career pathways again, which has overlapped a lot today. Making sure that young people know what options are available to them and ways to get that information across.
It was more of our tech in the because obviously we spent the last 18 months online with COVID and that, and trying to adapt take what was good from the last 18 months, because there's benefits and there's downsides, so everything that's happened. So I think it's trying to adapt, take the good things, and then put that into this new normal as to move forwards with music education.
As you guys also did, we put down teacher CPD across all levels of education to really help embed music development across the curriculum, taking a cross-curricular approach to keep that continuity going all the way through education. We put as an action point getting music industry professionals running workshops and seminars, etc. in educational settings. And we said, get more field trips, get young people and children out from their schools and colleges into music industry workspaces.
Basically, we just think it's all about. This is summing up the whole day, isn't it? Sorry. Okay. Great funding. We think we need great funding. We need great training to attract great people. That's us.
We need more apprenticeships, internships in music. Shops such as like Richer Sounds, for example, we could have internships for people to know how to use speaker systems, for example. How the creative arts are perceived, that can change. We need to change something like that. And more music teachers from a younger age. Myself, a primary school teacher, but specialise in music. And the amount of times that I've been ringing parents or they ring the school saying, what ukulele do we buy? They really want a new instrument, they really want to play things. I think it's absolutely incredible to get more music teachers in primary schools.
Fantastic things there. Just to finish off the day then, thank you everybody for coming. It's raining, with COVID, schools can't be here. We wanted this event to be slightly bigger, but actually I think we've got a really really valuable. We've got more out of you. I feel like we've got more out of you having you sitting and talking and meeting each other, and I hope you've enjoyed that interaction and met some people that you might not have otherwise met today. I'm really proud to have Amplify as part of the Music Hub. It's built into our infrastructure as part of what we do. It evolves, it changes. This is phase 3 of the project, and I need to mention ABRSM, who funded this phase as well, and it's great to have Kerry here today. It's been long postponed with COVID as well, so to see it coming to a culmination like today, I'm really proud. And I'm really proud that it's been driven by young people. This was designed by the content creators, and it was designed by 2 of the previous Amplify members that have actually moved on to university but kept that connection with the project going, and there's been some great opportunities for them over lockdown that we've kind of been able to be part of. The content will be released this week, so we will be putting that online. We'll be doing a news story about it on the Hub website, and I'll make sure everybody receives a link to that as well, so you can watch Aaron's fantastic music video again, and also listen to Caitlin's podcast and Olivia's podcast in full, so that's really exciting. And also Ewan today, who has been doing a fantastic job with some new technology that we've embraced over lockdown. We'll be compiling a short video of some of today's discussions, so it's been great, and thank you very much to you. And also Aaron, who's worked on today as well. I think a special mention to Aaron, who's been working behind the scenes, been to all the production meetings for today, so it's been really invaluable to have him involved. Not to mention the flyering as well. So that's been fantastic. Before we go, I'm just going to hand over to Tim Rogers, who's the head of the music service and lead organisation for the Hub.
Yes, thanks very much, everybody. I mean, Cath said it there. Thanks very much for coming. And I suppose just a couple of things I wanted to say. The first was in my position as head of service and lead the Hub. One of the things I will be doing is committing, as I have said over the years, to the financials. So I'll sort out the sort of financial side and push for that. It was interesting in the piece earlier. 2 of those ministers I have had discussions with a couple of times in the past, so I think I'll be sending that copy to them. I'm sure they'll like that one. So I'm sure we can get that viral, and for that. But also, I'd like to say also big thanks to Cath as well, who's put this together along with Grace and Aaron, as we've met, and Harry and Logan for their performances. Fantastic. And I think it's so important for us to listen to these voices at this time as well. Try to do it as much as it possibly can, and as I say, we'll take those actions forward as a music hub across Lancashire. Thank you very much. Thank you.